Breaking news from outer space, truth and fiction, same embrace. Lance and Gina lead the way, decoding myths from day to...
Okay, so have you ever heard like those whispers about the ancient world, you know?
Oh, yeah.
And they just hint at these secrets, these buried secrets.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Always makes you want to dig deeper.
That's exactly what we're doing today. We're diving into these claims about a massive underground complex,
Okay.
supposedly beneath the Great Pyramids in Egypt.
That's classic.
I know, right?
It's a very cool idea, right?
Yeah.
What we see
Yeah.
is just the tip of the iceberg.
Literally to
Yeah.
iceberg, exactly.
Yeah.
So we've got a collection of sources for you today
Okay.
to give you the clearest picture we could put together,
Right.
a podcast episode,
Okay.
and a couple of YouTube video transcripts.
Okay.
So one of the videos goes into these crazy discoveries,
Oh, wow.
and the other one gives us some really important context
Yeah.
by looking at already known underground structures in Egypt.
All right, cool. So setting the stage.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Our goal is always to unpack all this for you guys.
Of course.
Right. To
Yeah.
try to figure out.
What is fact
Uh-huh.
and what is just speculation.
Sure.
So
Okay.
consider this your streamlined guide to understanding this whole mystery.
I like it.
So let's jump into these initial claims, the ones that everyone's been talking about,
All right.
the Beneath the Sands podcast, right?
Okay.
They talked about Italian and Scottish researchers,
Okay.
and they used advanced radar technology,
Right.
which is basically using radio waves to see below the surface.
Right.
And they were investigating the area around the Great Pyramids.
So what did they find?
Well, that's the crazy part.
Yep.
The scale of what they found.
Yeah.
An extensive underground network with wells going over 2,100 feet down,
Whoa, that's
like almost half a mile.
that's intense.
Crazy.
Yeah.
And it gets crazier.
Okay.
They describe these cube-shaped rooms
What?
and these multi-level formations
Really?
that they think are connected by tunnels
Oh, wow.
stretching over 6,500 feet.
That's over a mile. Well over a mile. Yeah.
Wow.
So the podcast even suggests that this could change how we view Egyptian society.
It'd have to, right?
I mean, if it's true,
Yeah.
you know, a massive underground network like that,
It implies so much, yeah.
you know, it could mean they were way more centralized,
Yeah.
resource rich
Uh-huh.
than we ever thought.
Sure.
Imagine the planning, the execution.
Our nation, yeah.
It would have to be a complex system,
Yeah,
a huge workforce, engineering.
absolutely.
We might even have to rethink like religious stuff.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Underworld stuff.
Exactly. Tied to the underworld.
Yeah.
Totally different view of them.
It would be paradigm shifting if this is true.
Yeah, it'd be huge.
You go from tombs and temples to
Yeah.
something way more, just on another level.
But as you might imagine, not everyone was on board
Right.
with these claims. In fact, the podcast itself, they brought up some skepticism.
Good.
You know, some radar experts are questioning
Yeah.
if the technology can even reach that deep.
Right.
They're saying maybe it's an overinterpretation of the data.
Makes sense. I mean, radar's great,
Yeah,
but going that deep, who knows?
exactly.
It's tough to say.
So that brings us back to what we already know
Okay.
about what's under the pyramids, right?
Yeah.
The podcast actually reminds us, you know, we're not totally in the dark here.
Right.
There are tunnels and chambers
Yeah.
that were explored way back in the 19th century.
Totally. They're down there for sure.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's not just about if there are underground structures,
Yeah.
because we know there are.
The question is the size.
The scale, exactly.
Yeah.
That's the big difference.
Yeah.
They're saying it's a massive underground city.
Ooh, okay.
We're not talking a few chambers.
No.
This is huge. It would be unprecedented.
Compared to, what we know,
Exactly.
the tombs and the vaults.
Right. We know they built impressive tombs underground,
Yeah.
like elaborate mausoleums and stuff.
Right.
But this is like finding an entire Roman city under the sand.
Right.
Completely different.
Totally different.
Orders of magnitude bigger.
It is a big leap, for sure,
Yeah,
to go from what we know to a full-blown city.
exactly.
You need some serious evidence for that.
Okay, so let's shift gears for a second. We're going to go to the JRE clips transcript.
Right.
This clip talks about using LiDAR.
Oh, okay. Lasers.
Yeah, light detection and ranging.
Yep.
So it creates these super detailed 3D maps of surfaces.
Cool.
And it claims to have revealed stuff beneath the Great Pyramid.
Okay, so what's it say?
It takes it to another level.
How so?
They're talking about enormous structures,
Right.
but not just hundreds of feet deep, kilometers deep.
Oh, wow.
They mention these uniform coils and pillars.
Whoa, wait. Uniform.
Yeah, it says very unusual.
That's wild, yeah.
Unlike anything we've seen geologically or archaeologically.
That is really interesting.
It's pretty crazy, kilometers deep.
That's just, I can't even imagine. Yeah. They even mention these 600-meter descending cylinders.
Whoa.
With more structures even further down.
Oh my gosh.
And there's apparently stuff inside the pyramid itself, too.
No way, that's a lot going on.
Oh, yeah, a lot.
So are they saying these structures are man-made?
That seems to be the implication, yeah.
I mean, coils and pillars, kilometers deep.
It's way beyond anything we thought the ancient Egyptians could do.
Definitely.
And they mentioned this guy, Jay Anderson, as someone who broke down this information.
Okay.
But here's where some skepticism comes in. Zahi Hawass.
Oh, yeah, the big guy.
He called these claims nonsense.
Interesting. I mean,
He was Egypt's head of antiquities for a long time.
right, he knows his stuff.
So when he says something like that,
People listen. Yeah.
it definitely throws some shade on these claims.
It makes you wonder what he's seeing that we're not,
Exactly.
or not seeing, rather.
And the clip even brings up Graham Hancock,
Okay.
a bit of a controversial figure in this field.
Yeah, he likes to push the boundaries. Right, he always talks about advanced lost civilizations
Yeah.
and hidden knowledge.
Right, so these claims would fit right into his theories.
Exactly, so they say they contacted him for his take.
Interesting.
And it's funny, they mentioned his relationship with Zahi Hawass.
Oh yeah, they used to be like arch enemies or something.
I know, right?
But now they're friends.
So apparently, yeah.
What a twist.
It just adds another layer to this whole thing.
Definitely.
Okay, are you ready for the really interesting part?
Lay it on me.
This JR Eclipse transcript
Yeah.
mentions something called Project Unity.
Okay, never heard of it.
Me neither. So they had an announcement on March 16th,
Okay.
and they claim to have found these structures extending over 600 meters deep
Wow, that's deep.
from the pyramid's base.
Okay.
And get this, connecting to structures up to 2 kilometers below the surface.
2 kilometers? Are you serious?
Dead serious. They called the findings mind-blowing.
I mean, I guess they would be.
If it's true. If it's true.
Then they get super technical.
Okay. They talk about synthetic aperture radar Doppler tomography.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's...
It analyzes micro-movements caused by seismic activity
Right.
to create high-res 3D images.
So they're looking at tiny vibrations to see what's hidden.
That's the gist of it, yeah.
This is some serious tech.
It is, but whether it can really image things that deep,
Right, that's the question.
and if those images really show man-made structures,
Yeah, that's a big if.
it needs some serious validation from the scientific community.
For sure, peer review and all that.
Exactly.
Otherwise, it's just a cool story.
So we've got these claims of massive underground structures, right?
Yep.
But to give you some context,
Okay.
we got to look at the Bright Side Mystery video.
All right.
It talks about the Step Pyramid of Djoser,
Oh, cool. That's a classic.
which predates the Great Pyramids.
Right. That's way back.
And it has this huge underground labyrinth,
Okay.
like a network of tunnels stretching for about 3.5 miles.
Whoa, that's long.
And the video suggests these tunnels might have been part of a water system,
Interesting.
which could completely change how we think about pyramid construction.
Yeah, how they moved those huge stones.
Exactly.
That's always been the big mystery.
And they talk about this dry moat surrounding the Step Pyramid,
Okay.
10 times the volume of the pyramid itself.
Really? That's enormous.
It's huge.
Yeah.
And it has these weird features.
Like what?
It's too narrow and deep to be a quarry,
Right.
and some parts have rocky ceilings.
They couldn't have gotten stone from there.
Exactly. It had to be for something else.
It definitely suggests a purpose beyond just being a quarry.
Yeah, so they're saying it was for water collection.
Makes sense.
And get this, they think the compartments and tunnels in the moat might have been for water treatment.
Really?
But here's the crazy part.
Okay.
They're talking about a water-powered hydraulic lift system
Whoa. Wait.
using the water from the moat to lift those heavy stones.
That's some next level engineering
I know, right?
for that time period.
They even use this volcano analogy
Oh, wait.
to describe how it might have worked.
So how does the volcano work?
Imagine a platform floating in a water-filled shaft,
Okay.
and they control the water levels to lift the platform.
That's pretty clever.
It's a really cool idea.
It is. But could they really pull that off?
Well, the video does bring up some counter arguments.
Good.
Like, would there be enough rainfall?
Yeah, that's a good point.
And there's no mention of a nearby lake in any ancient writings.
That's weird. You'd think they'd mention it
Right.
if they had this huge water source.
And even if they did have the system,
yeah.
building it might have been just as hard as moving the stones manually.
Right. So maybe it defeats the purpose.
And remember, the stones for the step pyramid were way smaller.
Than the Great Pyramids.
Yeah, so even if a hydraulic system worked for Djoser...
It might not scale up to the Great Pyramids.
Exactly, so we got to keep that in mind.
Definitely.
So what does this all mean for a potential underground city at Giza?
Right. Back to the main event.
We've got these radar and LiDAR claims.
Yeah.
But also some serious doubts from the experts.
Right. And Zahi Hawass is no joke.
Nope. Wrong.
So it's a tough one.
And then we have the step pyramid,
Yeah.
which shows us the Egyptians were amazing underground engineers.
Oh, yeah. No doubt.
But maybe not on the scale they're claiming for Giza?
It's all about the scale.
It is.
And the evidence.
The Bright Side Mystery video says
Yeah.
that history can be buried.
That's true.
But for a city under Giza,
Yeah.
we need more than just claims.
We need proof. Peer review.
Exactly.
Let's-
Evidence.
So, to sum up for you,
Right.
we've got these claims of a huge complex under the pyramids.
Based on radar and LiDAR.
Yep.
But with a lot of skepticism from the experts.
A lot.
And then we have the step pyramid
Uh-huh.
showing us what they could do underground.
On a smaller scale,
Exactly.
but still, it's impressive.
Oh, yeah. Super impressive.
So what if they did find a city under Giza?
What a thought.
How would that change our view of ancient Egypt? It would be revolutionary, right?
Their capabilities, their society.
Everything. We'd have to rethink it all.
We'd have to rewrite the history books.
And it makes you think, what else is down there?
Oh, yeah. What other secrets are they hiding?
Waiting to be uncovered.
It's an exciting thought, isn't it?
It really is. Keeps the mystery alive.
That's what we love.
Absolutely.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
My pleasure.
We'll see you next time.
See you then.